There are wounds that never show on the body, the kind of wounds that were not carved by knives or bullets, but by betrayal, silence, and the cruel decisions of others. These are the wounds the world doesn't see. The wounds inflicted by people who once smiled at you, who once promised they would never hurt you. And yet, they did. They tore into your spirit with words coated in venom, with actions wrapped in pretense, and with silence that screamed louder than any shout. But listen carefully. This pain is not the end of your story. What if the very pain they caused is the lesson that will break them down? There is a sacred truth often overlooked by those who hurt others. God does not overlook the cries of the wounded. He does not turn his face from injustice, even when the world pretends nothing happened. The pain you endured, the tears you shed, the nights you couldn't sleep because your heart felt like it was being crushed inside your chest, all of it is recorded. Not one tear has fallen unnoticed, and while they may walk freely for now, cloaked in arrogance or ignorance, the same hand that allowed them to hurt you is the hand that will eventually humble them. Think about the divine irony of justice. The very weapon they used against you, be it their lies, rejection, manipulation, or neglect, will become the very thing God uses to awaken them. He does not need you to seek revenge. He doesn't require you to explain your story to the world or prove your worth to those who dismissed it. All he needs is your silence, your trust, and your unwavering belief that he is just. There is a holy order in his timing, and though it may feel delayed, it is never denied. It's a strange kind of ache, isn't it? To be wounded by someone you would have defended, to be left alone by someone you would have waited for, and still, you carry that pain without screaming. You keep moving forward, even when your soul feels stuck in the past. And you wear your smile as armor, even though your spirit is limping. But this is not weakness, no. This is strength wrapped in grace. This is dignity that cannot be destroyed by their cruelty. And this too will become part of the lesson God is preparing for them. They will remember how they made you feel. Not because you reminded them, but because God will. He will echo your silence into their loudest moments. He will make them feel the very absence they created. One day they will sit in stillness and be haunted by memories they once dismissed. The way they made you question your worth. The way they made you beg for love. The way they shattered what was whole inside you. These things will become their mirror, and when they look into those mirrors, they won't see you the way they remember. They will see the truth, the harm, the damage, the emptiness they left behind. God doesn't rush his justice. He lets it build slowly, like a tide, so that when it comes, it consumes everything that was built on pride and selfishness. He lets the lessons unfold in a language only the soul can understand. Loss, regret, loneliness, guilt. These are the same stones they once threw at your heart. And now, those very stones are being carved into tablets of their own learning. They thought your pain was the result of your weakness, but they didn't realize it was the very thing God would use to shape their downfall. You never needed to curse them. You never needed to expose them. You never needed to lower yourself to their level. Because your pain was your prayer, and God heard it. Your patience was your protest, and God saw it. Your endurance was your offering, and God received it. And now, he is writing a new chapter, one where you rise not in revenge, but in redemption. One where they are confronted not by your voice, but by the echo of your silence. Now louder than their lies. You are not forgotten, you are not overlooked. You are being written into a greater plan, where even the pain they caused you will return. Not to you, but to them, reshaped as their own life's correction. And when that happens, when they finally understand what they did, it won't be because you wished it upon them. It will be because God ordained it as part of their reckoning. They walked away as if what they did was harmless, as if leaving you hollow was some forgettable moment in their lives. They may have even convinced themselves that you deserved it, that their selfishness was justified, that their betrayal was a necessary step in their own story. But what they didn't understand was this: your pain did not vanish, it transformed. It did not disappear into silence, it turned into the voice of consequence. And though you may have moved forward quietly, the imprint of your sorrow was left in the hands of God. And God does not misplace sorrow. He transforms it. It is a sacred law woven into the fabric of the universe. What a person plants in another's life, they will harvest in their own. They sowed rejection, they will reap emptiness. They sowed deception, they will reap confusion. They sowed neglect, they will reap absence. And when it comes, it will not look like punishment, it will look like reflection. They will see versions of themselves in the people around them. They will feel misunderstood, discarded, or used. And in those moments, they will finally taste what they served to you. And yet, here you are, still breathing, still walking, still becoming. While they took from you, God was preparing to pour into you. While they reduced you, God was expanding you. What they saw as your breaking was actually your making. And the irony of divine justice is that what they shattered became the very foundation God used to rebuild you stronger. They thought the story ended when they hurt you, but God never ends with pain, He begins with it. You may not have closure. You may never hear the apology. They may never admit what they did. But you don't need their words. You need God's restoration. And that is already happening. Slowly, quietly, powerfully. The restoration is in how you see yourself differently now. How you've stopped seeking approval from those who were never worthy of your loyalty. The restoration is in how you've learned to say no without guilt, to walk away without begging, to protect your peace like it's sacred, because it is. They didn't think you would heal. They believed their absence would define you, their silence would destroy you, their betrayal would break you. But they forgot something vital. You were never alone. God stood beside you in the silence. He sat with you in the darkness. He wept with you in the night. And in the stillness, He was sowing seeds. Seeds of wisdom, of discernment, of quiet power. Seeds that are now breaking through the soil of your suffering. You see, God doesn't just vindicate, He educates. And the education He is giving them is written in the very language they once ignored: pain. The same weight they placed on your soul is returning to them, not as vengeance, but as truth. They will not be able to escape it, not because you wish them harm, but because the universe must balance what it carries. The scales of heaven are not tipped by charm or manipulation. They are calibrated by truth. And truth, once revealed, cannot be silenced. So don't waste your breath trying to explain what they refuse to understand. Don't chase after justice when God is already walking that road ahead of you. Your job is not to punish, it's to heal. Your task is not to monitor their downfall, it's to rise in your own purpose. Because what God is doing in you is far greater than what He is allowing to happen to them. The pain they caused was a lesson in disguise, not for you, but for them. You already learned, you grew, you transformed. Now it's their turn. Let them face the same silence they once gave you. Let them encounter the same confusion they once created in you. Let them feel the loss they once forced you to live through. not because you wish them suffering, but because suffering is often the only language the arrogant understand, and God knows how to speak it fluently. Not loudly, not publicly, but intimately, right where it hurts the most. This is not revenge, this is revelation. This is not hate, this is holiness. What they thought was an ending for you is about to become the beginning of their awakening. Because when God teaches, He doesn't use words, He uses reality. And the reality that is forming around them now is built with bricks they threw at you. One by one, those bricks are being laid down, not to bury them, but to build the mirror they'll be forced to face. There will come a day when they sit in the same silence they once left you drowning in, not because you're gone, but because God has removed the echo of your presence from their life. Your loyalty was a shield they never saw. Your patience was a covering they never understood, and your love, the kind that forgives again and again, was a rare treasure they treated like it was disposable. So now, as life begins to peel back the illusion, they will look around and find themselves surrounded not by enemies, but by shadows of what they lost. Echoes of your absence growing louder than your presence ever did. This is how God works. He doesn't strike with lightning. He stirs the soul. He rewrites the chapters in silence. He makes people confront themselves, not through your hands, but through His divine orchestration. The very moments they dismissed as nothing will become everything they can't escape. The casual decisions, the selfish choices, the lies they told without blinking, each will return like a seed now fully grown, and the harvest, it won't just be regret, it will be realization. The kind that shakes a person at the core, because they come to see how deeply they hurt someone who only ever wanted to love them right. You were not a phase, you were a divine assignment, someone God placed in their life as a gift, not a placeholder, but they treated your worth like it was negotiable. They played with your sincerity like it was a game, and now the game is over. Not because you lost, but because you walked away before they could finish destroying what little remained of your spirit. That walk, those quiet steps of choosing yourself, will haunt them more than anything you could have said. Because you didn't scream, you didn't curse, you didn't even explain. You just disappeared into the very grace they thought you didn't have. There's a different kind of pain that comes with clarity, and they will know it. The realization that the person they pushed away was the person sent to save them from their own emptiness. That the arms they rejected were the only ones that would have helped them when the world turned cold. But by the time they understand, you'll be far from the version of yourself they knew. God is not only healing you, He's elevating you. He's shifting you so far into your purpose that their names will no longer echo with the same power. Their presence will feel like a past life, their absence, a blessing you didn't know you needed. Let them feel the void. Let them try to fill it with temporary people and shallow moments. Nothing will fit, nothing will hold, because you were not just another chapter in their book. You were the turning point. And when they revisit those pages, they'll see the fingerprints of grace they once mocked. They'll see the prayers you whispered on their behalf, even when they were the ones causing your pain. And that sacred love they buried in their pride will rise up as judgment, not from you, but from within them. It will gnaw at their peace. It will interrupt their celebrations. It will sit beside them in their victories, reminding them of who they had and who they lost. You may never witness their breaking, you may never hear the confession, but you'll know in your spirit that it came. That God did what only He can do. He turned pain into a pathway, tears into tools, and sorrow into seeds. You planted your heartbreak into the soil of silence, and now the harvest is justice. Not the loud, angry kind, but the holy, undeniable kind that whispers through the winds of time. I saw what they did, and I did not forget. So carry yourself with peace, not pride. Walk with grace, not resentment. The lesson was never meant to be your burden. It was always theirs. You just carried the pain long enough to deliver it to the hands of heaven, and heaven never mishandles what is delivered in faith. There's something holy about the way you survived, not because it was clean or graceful, not because you didn't cry or question or collapse under the weight of what they did, but because you endured without becoming like them. You didn't let the pain turn you bitter. You didn't use your scars as weapons. Instead, you let the wound breathe. You let the sorrow soften you rather than harden you. And that choice, again and again, to stay kind while bleeding, is what sets you apart in a world that doesn't recognize quiet strength. God saw that, and in the mystery of divine justice, He is shaping your suffering into their awakening. They were so sure you'd stay broken, that you would remain in the corner where they left you, that your silence meant defeat. But God was with you in that silence. He was teaching you not to seek revenge, but to seek resurrection. He was showing you that healing doesn't require their apology, that closure doesn't come from their remorse, but from His restoration. And as you stood alone, with nothing but your pain and your prayers, heaven was already moving in your favor. Because those who harm without conscience always forget one thing. God is the final author, and He never ends a righteous soul's story in tragedy. There will be moments not far from now when the people who caused your deepest wounds will encounter their own mirror. It won't be wrapped in drama or lightning. It will come quietly, painfully, personally. Maybe through the voice of someone they care about saying the same words they once threw at you. Maybe through the moment they feel abandoned by someone they trusted, just as they abandoned you. And in that moment, they won't just feel pain, they'll feel recognition. A soul-deep knowing that this, what they're feeling now, is the same thing they made someone else endure. That someone was you, and the circle is now complete. But you, your life won't revolve around that moment. You won't be sitting in bitterness, waiting to see it unfold. You'll be walking in peace, far from the chaos they tried to leave in your heart. That's the difference between you and them. They inflicted pain and called it strength. You endured pain and found your strength through surrender. You let God hold your anger. You let Him carry your confusion. And that surrender became your sanctuary, a place where pain didn't define you, it refined you. You must understand something deeper now. Your healing is not only for you. It is part of a greater testimony that will speak to others who are still in the darkness you walked through. Your restoration will become someone else's roadmap. Your scars will become stars that guide others home. And the very people who doubted your worth will one day be silenced, not by your words, but by the weight of who you've become. God is not finished with you. He's just getting started. The pain was a preparation. The silence was a sacred place. And now the revelation is unfolding. They may wonder why everything feels like it's slipping through their fingers, why peace is so fleeting, why no relationship feels deep enough, no success feels fulfilling. It's because what they broke in you has echoed back into their own lives, and they can't outrun it. Not because you wished it, but because God weaves justice into the fabric of the soul. You can't harm the pure and walk away untouched. The universe doesn't function that way. God doesn't allow it. And while you may never get the words, the apology, or the confrontation, you will get the justice, not by watching them fall, but by watching yourself rise. So let them carry their lesson in silence. Let them live with the absence they created. You no longer need to prove your worth to those who are blind to it. Your life, healed and whole, will be enough. And when the day comes that they finally realize what they lost, it will not be a moment of pride for you, but a moment of peace, because by then you will have moved so far into your purpose that looking back won't even tempt you. The lesson will be theirs, the freedom will be yours. Some people learn only when their own soul is scorched by the fire they once lit in others. And God, in His infinite patience, allows that fire to grow slowly, never as vengeance, but as understanding. They will begin to feel what they once dismissed. Their nights will stretch longer, their thoughts will turn heavier, not because you cursed them, but because the spiritual debt they incurred must be paid, not with suffering, but with revelation. And revelation is never gentle when it arrives for those who inflicted pain and walked away. Your name will come back to them, not with fondness, but with a question that stings. What did I do? At first they'll resist the truth, covering it with justification, with the rehearsed stories they've told themselves and others. But truth has a way of seeping through every excuse. It creeps in during the quiet hours. It awakens people at dawn, not with fear, but with clarity. And in that clarity, they'll see the memory of your kindness, your loyalty, your tears, and how they ignored it all in pursuit of something shallower. The realization will not knock, it will enter uninvited and stay, because it has work to do. It must dismantle their illusions one by one, and while they unravel, you will be stepping into light they never imagined for you, not because they didn't believe in you, but because they never saw you clearly. They saw you through the lens of their own brokenness. They projected their wounds onto your intentions, their confusion onto your love. But God saw you for who you truly were, and He never stopped molding you, even when you felt abandoned by everyone else. In the secret place, He was reassembling the pieces they shattered, whispering identity into your cracks, pouring strength into your weakest places. What they broke, He blessed. What they discarded, He anointed. This is what divine justice truly looks like. Not destruction, but revelation. Not punishment, but perspective. And God, being who He is, doesn't rush it. He allows life to teach slowly, so that the lesson is etched deep into the soul. They will feel it when they hear your name again and realize you are no longer reachable, not out of bitterness, but out of growth. They will feel it when they see you glowing in places they never imagined you'd rise to, because they believed their betrayal would bury you. They didn't realize it would fertilize your calling. And you won't need to watch it unfold. You won't have to sit and wait for their downfall. You'll be too busy living, too busy becoming, because your story was never about their cruelty. It was about your endurance, your survival, your awakening. God let them walk away not to punish you, but to position you, to pull you out from the shadows of their disrespect and place you into the light of your own becoming. He knew you wouldn't find your worth in their hands. So He allowed them to drop you, not to destroy you, but to deliver you. There's a kind of peace that comes when you no longer seek their validation, when you stop hoping they'll return with the apology you once cried for. That peace isn't empty. It's full of self-respect, full of clarity, full of God's presence. Because you now know who you are without their approval. And in that knowing there is freedom. Let them wrestle with the silence you left behind. Let them feel the weight of the loyalty they threw away. They will search for what you gave so freely, only to discover that it can't be duplicated. Because your love was rare, your spirit sacred, your presence divine, and once it's gone, it cannot be replaced. That is the lesson God is teaching them now, that not all losses are loud, some are quiet and permanent. There's something deeply unsettling about realizing you were the villain in someone else's story, especially when that someone never fought back, never exposed, never retaliated. They simply disappeared, leaving nothing behind but the echo of their love and the silence of their absence. This is what God allows them to sit with, not just what they did, but who they became in the process. And that mirror, the one they refused to look into when you were bleeding, now stands before them. Clear, cold, and merciless. They see not only your tears, but the face they wore while watching you cry. It may not happen all at once. Sometimes it takes years. Sometimes it takes a single shattering moment. But one way or another, God orchestrates a reckoning, not to destroy, but to awaken. He doesn't need thunder to teach a lesson. Only time and truth, and both are now closing in. The memory of you will follow them, not like a ghost, but like a whisper that grows louder with each failure to replace what you once gave. They'll scroll past photos of smiles that now feel hollow. They'll revisit places once filled with your laughter and find only echoes. And they'll understand, maybe for the first time, that love like yours was a once-in-a-lifetime grace. But by then, grace will have grown wings. It will no longer sit at the door where they left it. It will no longer weep in waiting. You will be gone, not in bitterness, not in revenge, but in glory. You will have bloomed, you will have evolved, and they will realize too late that the very pain they handed you was the storm God used to water your garden. Every insult became a seed, every rejection a root, every betrayal a beam of light breaking through. They tried to bury you, and yet, there you are, rising. And what of you now? You who once wept in secret, you who begged for answers in the dark, you who wondered if God had forgotten, you are becoming a lighthouse for others. Your story is no longer just yours, it's a testimony. You carry a quiet strength now, the kind that doesn't need to be loud because it is holy. People will look at you and not know what you've survived. They will admire the calm in your voice, the softness in your eyes, never guessing the depth of storms that tried to drown you. That is the mark of divine rebuilding. It leaves no bitterness behind, only beauty. So when they come back, and they will in some form, even if just in thought, don't let it unsettle your peace. Don't let their regret tempt you into re-entering the fire God already pulled you from. Not all returns are meant to be reconciliations. Some are just reminders that you escaped, that you healed, that you listened when God whispered, "Leave now," before the wound becomes your identity. And you did. You left with grace, and that grace became your crown. Their lesson will continue long after you've stopped thinking about them. It's not your burden to carry. It's not your story to finish. You were only the beginning of their transformation, the chapter where they learned what it meant to mishandle something holy, and they will spend the rest of their journey learning what it cost. Meanwhile, your story moves forward, not in the shadows of what they did, but in the light of what God is doing. You were never just a victim of their choices. You were a vessel of divine redirection, and the pain they caused was simply the sound of the chains breaking, not chains of bondage to them, but chains that kept you from seeing your own worth. And now that you've seen it, you will never again hand it over to someone who cannot hold it. Freedom, when it finally comes, doesn't always look like joy at first. Sometimes it looks like silence. Sometimes it feels like emptiness. The absence of their presence can feel like a wound before it feels like relief. But as the days pass, you begin to realize that what you lost was never yours to keep. It was only there to teach you what not to hold again. And what you gain instead is sacred, clarity, peace, self-respect. These are not loud victories, but they are the most powerful kind. They grow in the quiet. They build you from the inside out. And that is where God does his greatest work. Inside the places no one else sees. You'll start to notice it in the little things, the way your heart no longer aches when their name crosses your mind, the way you stop waiting for a message that never came, the way you look in the mirror and finally see someone who is not just surviving, but living. This is the kind of transformation that doesn't need to be announced. It speaks for itself. They will see it, even if they never say a word. They will feel it, even if they pretend not to care. Because peace cannot be faked, and healing cannot be hidden. When you walk in wholeness, even those who broke you will feel its weight. And as they sit in the shadow of their own choices, they will remember the light they once ignored. You were not perfect, but you were pure. And in a world that constantly trades authenticity for convenience, your purity will haunt them. Not like a ghost, but like a standard. Like a reminder that they once had something real and mistook it for something ordinary. But real love is never ordinary. Real loyalty is never replaceable. And real souls, like yours, do not beg to be seen. They simply walk away when they are no longer honored. Let this be your final release. You owe them nothing. Not your attention, not your explanation, not your pain. God has already collected the debt. What they owe you is no longer your concern. It's in His hands now. And He knows how to return lessons wrapped in mercy, how to bring people to their knees not to break them, but to open their eyes. He is the only one who can reach where your voice never could, into the conscience, into the spirit, into the places they've been trying to avoid. That is where their lesson will bloom, in the soil of their own silence. And you will continue forward, not untouched but transformed. The pain they caused was not your ending, it was your awakening. It was the moment heaven marked you and said, "You're not staying here, not in this pain, not in this waiting, not in this lesser version of yourself." And since then, every step you've taken has been divine, even the ones that felt like crawling, even the days you didn't think you were healing. You were, slowly, steadily, eternally. Their lesson will not look like yours. It will not come with peace. It will come with realization, with the sudden, sharp clarity of all they threw away. And while they carry the weight of that loss, you will rise in the weight of glory. A glory that comes not from proving yourself, but from finally seeing yourself as God always did. Worthy, chosen, unstoppable. There will be a day when you no longer speak of what they did, with pain in your voice. A day when you retell your story, not with trembling, but with triumph. Not because the scars have faded, but because they no longer hurt to touch. That is when you'll know the lesson has shifted, no longer theirs alone, but yours too. Because pain doesn't just shape them, it shapes you. It teaches you where to plant your love and where to guard it. It teaches you the difference between being needed and being valued, between being used and being cherished. And most of all, it teaches you the power of letting go with grace. God is not just writing justice into their lives. He is writing redemption into yours. He is restoring what they tried to take. Not just the confidence or the hope or the peace, but the deeper things. The dreams you abandoned to please them. The joy you muted to keep them comfortable. The identity you blurred just to keep them from leaving. All of it is coming back to you, refined, not as it was, but as it was always meant to be. And in this restoration, you will find something they never gave you: wholeness. They may never understand what they lost. Some people live their entire lives blind to the treasure they once held in their hands. But God will not allow your worth to remain hidden. He will display it in the open, not for pride, but for purpose. Because your life, your healed, powerful, resilient life, will become proof that nothing meant to harm you can hold you down when God is your defender. He doesn't just rescue, He resurrects, and what they thought they buried was only being planted. Let them talk. Let them twist the story if they need to. You don't need to correct the record. The fruit of your healing will speak louder than their version of events. Truth has a way of rising without your help. It doesn't require defense. It only requires time. And time, with God's hands upon it, will reveal everything. One day, people will look at you and wonder how you made it. They'll ask how you remained kind, how you kept believing, how you stayed soft in a world that wanted to harden you. And the answer will be simple: God. It was always God. So now as you move forward, do so boldly, not because you want to prove anything to them, but because you no longer have anything to prove. The ones who hurt you have already begun to carry their own fire. You don't need to witness it. You don't need to wait for it. Let it be. Let them walk their path, and let God walk with you into a life that no longer carries the weight of what they did, but only the wisdom it left behind. You were never their lesson to escape. You were God's messenger they failed to hear. And now God will use the pain they caused not only to teach them, but to lift you, to anoint you, to crown you with the very glory they never believed you were worthy of. Your story is safe in God's hands, and your rise, quiet, holy, undeniable, has only just begun.